Hey, how's everybody doing today? Well, I felt compelled to put together a recording to discuss a few of the issues in my postings and some of these recordings that I've posted on my YouTube channel. Based on some of the comments, it seems that some of you all don't quite fully understand, which, I mean, I get it. People are just not that intelligent these days. Um, and so I'll break it down for you all so you can understand a little bit more my perspective and where I'm coming from. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, ignorance tends to be a hurdle to overcome when trying to understand certain things. If you're not educated enough or intelligent enough, it's sometimes difficult to fully wrap your mind around concepts. So I want to address a few things. There was a phone call that I had posted with Don Mason, the quote-unquote mayor here in Zanesville, Ohio. And in that conversation, I was addressing a few issues about some noise complaints, nuisance issues, and so forth. And based on the comments, there was a few things that I felt compelled to address, so that way you all understand where I'm coming from, so that way there's no confusion. Um, in the call, Don Mason had mentioned about providing a device to put in my home to record some noises and so forth. Quite frankly, he makes it sound like he's being helpful by offering ridiculous solutions, and you all don't realize they're ridiculous solutions because you guys just see that he's offering to do something. But what you don't realize is that machine is in fact not even capable of detecting the bandwidth of sound frequencies that are disturbing me. The machine, and this is just my opinion, I think that it was an attempt to place the machine to test, and because the machine wasn't calibrated to pick up the frequency bandwidths of the noise that's disturbing, it would have provided a false positive as being that there's no noise, if that makes sense, or a false negative, however you want to look at it. It would not have picked up any disturbing noise sounds or so forth because of the fact that it wasn't calibrated properly. The machine itself wasn't even designed to fully detect all of those frequencies in the certain bandwidths where these noises that I'm referring to. So the machine, I mean, bottom line is that it was just a trick. The machine wasn't even going to be useful. They were just trying to manipulate the situation to make it seem like they were trying to help or wanting to help, but not actually provide any real tangible help to solve or provide a solution to the problem. So I've been forced to figure this all out on my own, which I was finally able to get the noise assessment by the electric company and so forth, and had all of that validated by them. But unfortunately, with the noise nuisance problems coming from these local area business operators operating their heavy machinery, heavy equipment at all hours of the night and early morning, disturbing the peace, those complaints never were fully investigated. They were never even investigated whatsoever. A few of these public servants may have, I'd say, looked into it, or maybe checked it out, but I wouldn't call it an investigation. The most that anybody had done was one of the sergeants had driven up to one of these properties and sat there and listened to the noise, admitted that it was loud, but then drove away. Didn't bother to write a report or pass it up to anybody higher up in the chain of command to have somebody pay attention and follow the law, enforce the law with the situation. Because ultimately, that's all it was asking for, was for peace and quiet at nighttime. That's required by law, by the noise ordinance here locally, disturbance of the peace code, as well as the state. The state has several laws that pertain to this sort of thing that are supposed to be adhered to, and the city itself, the municipal corporation of Zanesville, as well as Muskegon County, Ohio, none of the public servants there have the authority to suspend any laws whatsoever. They can't suspend them, they can't cancel them, they can't ignore them. They are required by their oaths of office and by the law itself to follow the laws that are already established. So what we have here is a situation where we have public servants that are unaccountable, that are doing everything they can to make it look like they're wanting to help or trying to help, but it's only a facade because it's not actually to provide solid, tangible help. And after all, I mean, being here in the community, it is their responsibility, no matter what they say. And I think just because of these qualified immunity ideas or whatever it is that's being thrown around, if it is even an actual law. I think this is a cancer on our society because it's creating a situation where these public servants are becoming criminals, hiding behind their qualified immunity and their badges and their uniforms to do anything that they feel like doing. Being lazy, being incompetent, not performing proper investigations, jumping to conclusions, and so forth. You'll see all that in the evidence. So, with that being said, I mean, if Don Mason really wanted to help, he could have told Doug Murray, the public safety director, to have his minions properly investigate my complaints. An officer could have verified the complaints, but with no accountability here for public servants, it's really no wonder why they are lazy and incompetent and don't bother investigating. They seem to just jump to conclusions. So this was evidenced by the criminal case that I was dragged through because of these public servants not having accountability and lying and creating fictitious stories and manipulating the court system to their favor. Because after all, their buddies work in the court systems. These prosecutors, these attorneys, the judges, they all protect each other. I think even if a prosecutor had the ability to, well, not even if I think, I know because I've seen it with my own eyes, I've experienced it myself, that these prosecutors ignore the laws of their buddies, these other public servants, to hold people, the general population, us pesky citizens, to a much higher standard than they're willing to hold themselves to. They overlook their buddies' crimes and the situations, the law violations, the constitutional violations, all of the things that they scrutinize everyday Americans for extremely, they overlook and make excuses for when their buddies or their cohorts, colleagues, whatever you want to call them, people that are conspiring to subvert the rule of law and the constitutions and our protections and our rights. So that was evidenced in the court case when these quota hires, these women dispatchers that work up in the front, admitted. They admitted to being incompetent under oath on the stand during my cross-examinations to me when I asked them the questions. They testified that my noise complaints were the responsibility of the county to address, even though that's not in accordance with the law. That's actually contrary to the established laws, such as Ohio Revised Code 715.49, sections A and B. It says specifically in there that it's the municipal corporation's responsibility, even when the noise is coming from outside the city limits. If the disturbance is noticed inside the city limits, it is the municipal corporation's responsibility to address that issue and protect the community. This is just another example of laziness and incompetence, and whether they've become this way because of the lack of standards or they were always this way and just hired because of lack of standards, I don't know. It could be a combination of both too. But they've refused to even find out if they were required to take my complaints. They've lied about that. They've harassed me. They've made excuses for their incompetence and copped attitude with me because I've asked them to do their job. Nothing more. I've asked them to take my complaints. I've asked these public servants to investigate my complaints, the job that they're getting paid to do. Unfortunately, they didn't want to do that because there's no accountability. So, quite frankly, these quota hires really have no incentive to learn their job fully or be responsible in their job because they were either probably hired because of their gender or something to that effect, or maybe the color of their skin. There's a lot of that going on these days with affirmative action and so forth, where companies and corporations are promising to hire people simply because of the color of the skin, not because of their qualifications or their ability to actually perform the job. And I think this is a disservice to all Americans because it creates a situation like this where we have completely incompetent people in positions that shouldn't be there. There should be more competent people, more people that are willing and able to perform the duties that are described in their job description, and not anything else, not attacking law-abiding citizens, not manipulating the system to their advantage, and terrorizing veterans in their home, on their property, and all kinds of different crazy, psychotic things that these public servants have done, rather than address the nuisance noise complaints that I've complained about and others have complained about. That was evidenced in the Don Mason phone call when he admitted that there was other people that were complaining about the noise, and as well as the fact that they've never properly investigated, like I said, so they wouldn't even have been aware that there's other property owners over closer to some of these businesses making all this noise that are just as disturbed, if not even more, than I am. And they have been complaining as well, but that gets ignored as well, because it's easy to just say that I'm the only one complaining, so then they don't have to do anything. If they admit it, if they pay attention and they admit that there's other people complaining, they might be forced to actually perform their duties that they're required to by law. They might be actually forced to do their job that they're getting paid to do, rather than be lazy and incompetent and make excuses. So not only the dispatchers, these quota hires in the front, that apparently don't have the ability or capability to understand the law that pertains, or the laws that pertain even to the situation at hand. Specifically with my situation, I can't speak for anybody else or anybody else's situations. I can only speak for what I've experienced, and it's been overwhelming, the incompetence that I've had to endure with these people, as well as David Tarbert, the law director, who admitted during my cross-examinations that he wasn't aware of the state law that required the city to address the noise issue, disturbance of the peace issue. In fact, he also admitted that he didn't even properly look into the issue, because I asked him if he had ever come out into the neighborhood around the times that the noise is disturbing to experience it for himself, so he could actually have some firsthand knowledge of what is being complained about. Of course, he said yes, but then shortly thereafter, he admitted that he came to listen to the noise at about, I think it was like 2 or 4 in the afternoon, something like that. It was in the afternoon time when the disturbance of the peace code really isn't in effect, because it's during the daytime hours, so operations can be noisy within reason, but it's a different standard than what's required at nighttime. And so this bozo didn't even bother to come out and check out the noise levels at night. I mean, that just shows you how incompetent they are. They can't even figure out, when all my complaints are at nighttime or early morning hours when it's disturbing. They don't have the capacity to understand that that's when they need to check it out, is in the middle of the night, early morning hours when it's disturbing. They come out at a different time of the day. Usually at that time of the day, it's actually quieter than it is at nighttime. And so, of course, this fool makes excuses and completely admits his failure. But there is no accountability, so he probably won't be held accountable for that. He's going to continue to be the law director, because people here in Muskingum County and Zanesville don't pay attention. The voters here, the people that get selected for jury duty and so forth, they, from what I've seen and from my experience, they do not pay attention to anyone's rights. They do not pay attention to the full story. They side with the prosecutor, and of course the prosecutors, they give them some kind of funny story or whatever, or manipulate the facts to their advantage, because that's what they do. They're weasels. So it's just amazing. So yeah, so it's not just the quota hires there. It's the law director as well. He is just as incompetent, and how these people got into these positions, unless they're quota hires, is beyond me. I mean, clearly they don't have the mental capacity or the intelligence or the maturity to perform these duties. So I don't even understand how they keep their positions. I mean, it just means that there must be more incompetent people, or people more willing to overlook the incompetence above them, that should be holding them accountable. So moving on, in my experience, there's been some issues as well with the prosecutors I mentioned here in this conversation, and maybe in some of the other conversations. These prosecutors, they don't pay attention to the law. They don't pay attention to the true process, the due process of us people. Again, they overlook their buddies' crimes, their cohorts, their colleagues, their friends, whatever you want to call them. I mean, this is actually nepotism in a way. And I mean, hell, there's already been nepotism proven where here in the municipal court, which shouldn't have happened, in my opinion, but there was the son of the former seated judge that was appointed to that same bench after his father had retired. This seems to me to be nepotism and definitely a conflict because it's too easy when you get a lineage like that to continue bad patterns and bad habits. And who knows if this son was maybe groomed to do some more of the same. So, in my experience, and you can see in the docket information if you look that up or if you've had a chance to look that up, you can see all the cases where they've utterly failed because they've put together ridiculous cases, tried to hold me accountable for telecommunications harassment and so forth for the calls for service. They consider my calls for service as harassment. I mean, this is extreme incompetence. So these prosecutors, first of all, they should have dropped the case once they realized that it was the negligence of these quota hire dispatchers and the negligence of the law director and these law enforcement personnel, if that's what you want to call them. It was their negligence that created the situation that led to them being able to charge me. They used an isolated incident where the quota hires had abused me on the phone, harassed me, and were playing games. And in my attempt to get a supervisor to find out why they wouldn't just take my complaint and go on about their business, I kept calling back to try to get a hold of a supervisor to find out what's the deal with the games. Well, they use that as harassment. So they manipulated the situation to their advantage. I don't know. I've had this experience before, just in more private matters with girlfriends and that sort of thing, dealing with women. And I didn't think I would deal with this sort of thing in this situation, being that they're supposed to be professionals and not act that way. But so the prosecutor should have just dropped the case altogether once they realized that it was a negligence of the municipal corporation, these agencies, departments, whatever you want to call them, and that should have been paid attention to. But of course, they don't care about being lawful or the rule of law. They care about winning. And whatever they can do to win, that's what they'll do. If they have to disparage me in a way or shape or form that prevents me from getting a fair trial, they'll do that. Because there's no accountability, they won't be held accountable, but I will get completely destroyed because I'm at a complete disadvantage. When they expect me to act like an attorney, even though I'm not, I'm able to figure things out and think for myself, but I don't know all the ins and outs of what it means to be an attorney. I haven't read all the law books. I don't know all of the ridiculous procedures and the little things that need to be done, types of forms and documents that need to be filed, what check marks need to be in the right place here, or they seem to be scrupulous about if your T's aren't crossed properly or your I's aren't dotted properly. It seems like they're more interested in finding an excuse to dismiss my claim or my case or my defense rather than pay attention to the facts and the truth. But again, with no accountability, this is what you get. You get incompetence. You get people that are manipulating the system to their advantage. And though that may not be fully incompetent, because obviously they're able to manipulate the system to their advantage, so they're clearly competent in doing something, it's sheer incompetence because they are not performing the duties according to the law that are outlined in the law. It could be maybe these soulless creatures just don't have a soul. Maybe that's why they have no personal conviction or conscience when performing these actions and destroying people's lives, because maybe they've already sold their soul for their position, their title, a paycheck, to be a public servant or what have you, so that way they can manipulate and bully people to their advantage, so they can profit and the organizations that they work for can profit off of it as well, for the harm. Quite frankly, these people take advantage of people's ignorance. The courts were never designed to be overly complicated. They were designed to be simple, so that any of us can go in there and get a resolution for a situation that we're dealing with. But unfortunately, these systems have been taken over and have been perverted in a way that it prevents the common man or woman from getting any justice or any true resolution to fix the situation. Instead, law-abiding citizens ask for help and end up getting destroyed by the meat grinder put together by these incompetent people in these positions that are not doing what they're supposed to do. They're not following the law. It really is concerning to me that they're willing to just destroy people's lives, destroy my life, rather than following the law because it's more profitable. I mean, when you got a 90% plus conviction rate in the court, that should be a red flag. Especially when you take into consideration the types of so-called investigations that these law enforcement officers are performing, or the lack of investigations that they are performing, I should say. It really is amazing that they're able to get that high of a conviction rate in the court with such half-assed, incompetent, incomplete investigations. When these investigators, whether they're a patrolman or a detective, they don't bother to consider motive. They don't bother to consider all of the aspects of the situation at hand to fully determine what actually happened and who's at fault. So it's all been proven to me without a shadow of a doubt. This is what I've been dealing with. This is the types of people that I've been dealing with. This is the experience that I've had, and it goes against everything that that the laws that are already established require. It goes against everything that our country was created for. Our forefathers came to this country and started this country to get away from government overreach, over taxation, and an abusive government. And now we have the very thing that our forefathers were trying to get away from, and did get away from for a while, but unfortunately it's found its way to creep back into our society, and now it's just out of control because these people have no accountability. But so let's move on. So tomorrow, stay tuned. Tomorrow I'm going to be releasing 2 recordings of conversations of a situation that I came aware of over the weekend, and it involves one of the employees at the Public Safety Department, Police Department, whatever you want to call it, at Zanesville, Ohio, Jordan Blanton. I was being harassed by dispatch for an unknown reason, and was then threatened by a dispatcher that if I didn't call back by Sunday at 3 p.m. that I would be arrested. There would be a warrant issued for my arrest. Not, of course, telling me why or what was going on, but just threatening me to force me to comply. So you'll hear in the recording I post tomorrow where this bozo gets on the phone. I mean, this is prime example of earning the hate. This guy has no idea how to properly investigate anything, apparently. He jumps to conclusions. I guess the best analogy is he throws shit at the wall and sees what sticks. And then he looks for evidence to support that unhinged, incompetent conclusion, even when there's pertinent evidence to consider that would controvert his incompetent conclusion. But because he's lazy and incompetent and there's no accountability, it's, whatever's easiest, I guess. Justice and protecting people just doesn't matter. It's more important that he just gets to a conclusion as quickly as possible, because I guess that's what he's getting paid for. I thought he was getting paid to actually enforce the law and be held to a standard and provide a standard of protection and security for the community. But I guess that's too much to ask with no accountability. It's just a little overwhelming. So you'll hear it, like I said, you'll hear it in the recording that I release tomorrow. And this is just more harassment from criminals hiding behind their uniforms and badges, These people are a complete disgrace and must be held accountable. The fact that they haven't is unconscionable, especially in a place where I was under the impression it was more conservative here in Muskingum County in Zanesville, Ohio, that I had hoped would be a population of people that would be more willing to adhere to laws and standards. But unfortunately, it seems that this place is almost as bad, for lack of better terms, as more liberal areas or democratic areas or whatever you want to call them, where the police have been utterly removed and criminals are out of control. It seems to be the opposite here. So in the more left-leaning cities, it seems they're doing away with police and the criminals are out of control. And in the more right-leaning communities, it's the criminals are held to a higher standard, and the ones with the badges and uniforms are actually bigger criminals that commit more crimes than the people that they're holding accountable and dragging through the court systems and making money off of. So it really is unfortunate that people here in Muskingum County don't realize this. I mean, the most eye-opening thing to me was when I was in court and we were going through a jury selection process, and someone was asked what their favorite TV show was, one of the jurors, and one of the jurors said Breaking Bad. And I just thought to myself, like, this juror must be completely retarded. I mean, I guess it's, fun and comical, laugh, chuckle, and everything else, Breaking Bad, but like time and a place for everything. I don't know if she was trying to be funny, rhetorical, or facetious, or if she was serious, but I think it kind of shows the level of ignorance that people have here, especially these people that are serving on jury duty, that seem to be biased with the courts and don't fully consider my defense. In my experience, they didn't consider my defense fully. The cross-examination and the information that came out in the cross-examination that was testified to by the witnesses that I cross-examined, their negligence and their admitting to their negligence and incompetence, and their lack of adhering to the laws and standards that were required by the law, that was all ignored. So they could simply get another win, so they can add to their conviction rate, their percentage, and that kind of stuff. And it's just with a lack of accountability, this is the sort of thing that happens. But don't take my word for it. I've got plenty of evidence to show all this. It's just a few people want to take the time to look into it and validate what I'm saying. You're more than welcome to. I got plenty of information out there on this channel. So after you listen to the recording tomorrow that I release of the conversation I had with Jordan Blanton, you'll hear after that I had a conversation with a woman named Amanda at Pizza Hut who was claiming in the situation that I had given them a counterfeit $100 bill, which is absurd. I mean, first of all, how in the hell did this woman become a manager? She blames others for her incompetence. Quite frankly, the situation is this, and I tried to explain this to Jordan Blanton, but he, of course, already had his conclusion set in mind. No one has access to my money, period. Only me. So when I withdraw my money from my account at my bank, it goes into my hand. No one else has access to it. When I bring it home, it goes into my safe. No one else has access to it. So the money that I gave the driver went directly from the ATM to my hand to the driver's hand to pay for the pizza that was delivered. And no one else had access to it, period. Now, after it was handed to the driver, you have multiple people that had, unknown actually, a number of people that had access to that money. The driver, the manager, any other employees in the store, any other off-duty employees that came into the store while they were off, while the store was open. They all could have had access to that money. The purchase was made at 2 p.m. on December 5th. The complaint, as far as I know, wasn't even filed until, I think it was a week ago Monday. So they waited a week to report this. The manager didn't even find out about it. She didn't even know about it. It didn't get found out until the deposit went to the bank, according to her. You'll hear that in the recording in her conversation, where she admits that they didn't bother to, at any time, check any of the currency. Now, I know I gave a legitimate $100 bill because I don't deal with funny money. I don't need to. However, one thing that Jordan Blanton and this incompetent manager failed and forgot to recognize is motive. How many other people had the motive to do something like this? If they had access to a counterfeit bill and they saw an opportunity to swap that out, all of these other people, all the employees, the manager, however many drivers they've got, all of these people had access to this money. I mean, quite frankly, pizza delivery drivers don't make a whole lot of money. Managers of pizza stores don't make a whole lot of money. They're probably overworked and underpaid. And so if there was a motive there, the motive would certainly be in a place where money is needed more. Now, that was never considered. Of course, we just jump to conclusions and see what sticks, and then try to find the evidence that supports that unhinged conclusion, because there's no accountability. So, again, no one had access to my money at all, period. So how this bozo could even come up with this conclusion is beyond me. But it's just, I don't think it has anything to do even with the situation necessarily. I think it's more just about harassment. I think it's because they never investigated my noise complaints, my desire to just get peace and quiet at my home, and the law violations there. So now they're taking up this half-assed, unhinged conclusion, siding with this incompetent manager at Pizza Hut to try to press charges against me because she was incompetent and somebody passed her a counterfeit bill and she wasn't competent enough to figure it out. And they're blaming me for that. So this Amanda at Pizza Hut is just looking for a scapegoat to excuse her incompetence and blame somebody else for her lack of management skills. Quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Amanda or some of the other employees or another employee in the store may be related to some of these people in the police department here in Zanesville or in the court systems, whether the municipal court system or the county court system or what have you. There may be some, maybe some connection there where that's why this sort of thing came up. Maybe they saw an opportunity to attack me again and use it as a form of harassment that's shielded a little bit by the fact that they're making it sound like they're doing their police work. But, I mean, let's be honest. It's just another half-assed attempt to harass me and terrorize me and make me think that they're going to come to my house and threaten my life again and do God knows what else other than, properly investigating a situation, paying attention, using their God-given brain that clearly doesn't work right because they're not able to wrap their mind around these concepts and understand them. So, I mean, clearly someone saw an opportunity to steal. This happens all the time with delivery drivers and from different restaurants and so forth, either stealing money, stealing tips, stealing food, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. And this isn't necessarily out of the ordinary for that sort of thing to happen. But again, it's easy to blame me because, well, it's an opportunity for them to harass me further because they've refused to investigate my complaints. They refuse to provide protection for the community and force these business operators to silence their equipment at night, either cease and desist their production or mitigate their production noise altogether so it's not disturbing. But no, they would rather hide behind their badges and uniforms and try to find ways to attack me and get me to pay for someone else's incompetence and someone else's crime. This is absurd. You'll you'll hear it, and you'll become aware of it when you hear the recordings tomorrow when I release them. Um, you know, it just amazes me. It really does amaze me that the more and more interactions I have with these people, I don't know if they want to do the right thing. It almost seems like they're spoiled brats, bullies on the playground, if you will. I was a new kid at a school before, and have dealt with bullies on their playground, and you constantly get picked on and ridiculed until you stand up against a bully. But unfortunately, in this situation, these bullies have guns, and they are protected by a system that if I try to stand up for myself and defend myself, that I will be utterly destroyed. So trying to go through the court systems, trying to file a lawsuit, all of that gets completely railroaded. You can see that yourself. In the docket information, my lawsuit that I had filed to attempt to get some relief in the situation and have the city forced to follow the law and address the noise issues, and to be compensated for damages that were caused by these incompetent public servants, the case was dismissed and thrown out without a single hearing, without a rebuttal of evidence, without a rebuttal of the affidavits that were filed in the case. And this was all done while that same court that I had my civil case filed in was falsely detaining me in jail because of a fraudulent failure to appear warrant that they created out of thin air for a hearing that was never in existence, that was never on the docket, that I wasn't properly notified about. And they did this in a manner to so that they could rearrest me, put me back in jail. When they did that, while I was in jail for that fraudulent failure to appear warrant, they dismissed, the other judge dismissed my civil case. And for the entire 30 days that I had to appeal that decision, I was held in jail, falsely detained, for not only that fraudulent failure to appear warrant that was created by the court, but also because of my medical status and my use of certain medications that are approved by the state and approved by my doctor, and that was held against me as well. They refused to acknowledge, my state-authorized, doctor-approved medication use. And even though I wasn't able to use my medication while I was incarcerated, falsely detained, basically, I still had some trace elements of the medication in my system while I was in there. And so instead of recognizing my authorized use, they held me in jail even longer than I was supposed to, even after being given a OR bond, owed and recognizance, so I could get out and create my defense and put together my defense. Instead, this was all held against me, and I was held in jail for an additional roughly 10 days past being given the OR bond because of these people using my state-approved, doctor-approved medication use against me. I've got all the proof of that. I submitted the proof, but they didn't seem to really care about that evidence. So here we have prosecutors, judges, attorneys, law enforcement officers, law directors, mayors, public safety directors, a plethora of people, other people that work within the municipal corporation that I've had in situations with in the past that have lied and created false narratives, false stories to get me in trouble. I've got the evidence of that as well. If any of these people would actually pay attention, say the mayor, people who should be responsible to oversee their employees, they would see the egregious violations and the ridiculous half-assed approach at addressing my complaints and so on and so forth. But instead, they protect each other. They protect each other in a manner to bring down the standard of the community, to create safety concerns in the community, which is contrary to what they are supposed to do, contrary to what the law requires of them, and the contract that they have with the city of Zanesville to perform these duties. It goes against all of that, not to mention their oaths of office and the Constitution. We're all supposed to be provided protection under the law equally, period. This is not what's happening today. These people lied, cheated, stole, manipulated the courts in a way to destroy my life, to take away my rights, to take away my ability to defend myself, to take away my Second Amendment right to defend myself. All of this because they didn't want to do their job. They didn't want to investigate my complaints. And instead of doing the right thing, they would rather harass and intimidate and terrorize me and steal my property and threaten my life and my property, and all because there's no accountability. So, with all that being said, again, you will be able to witness it yourself in the recordings I release tomorrow. And I hope you all start having a conversation about this here, especially those of you that are paying attention if you are here in Muskingum County and in Zanesville, Ohio. You all definitely need to pay attention. What is going on right now is an extreme travesty, and how any of you can be okay with this is beyond me. I mean, maybe some of you are. There are some psychopaths out there. But I know there's some good law-abiding citizens, some people that have a conscience that want our society, our community, these neighborhoods to be protected, to create a situation that's conducive to our well-being, not hazardous situations where we're being exposed to loud noise, where we're being attacked by public servants who refuse to do their job, that want to be incompetent and make excuses or perform other actions in a way to cover up their crimes and their incompetence. It is absolutely overwhelming, the level of incompetence, the lack of standards, the I can't even think of any words to describe it any stronger than that. That sums it up for the most part. But I can't believe that these people are allowed to do this and get away with it. I can't believe that there's this many people in this city and in this county that are turning a blind eye or are that ignorant and don't even realize that's what's going on. But that's the purpose of why I'm doing this. I'm wanting to expose the corruption so that way people become aware of it, because we can't fix a problem until we're aware of what the problem even is in the first place. And so, based on what I've seen in the comments, a lot of you just seem to be very hateful and want to be antagonistic and want to take a biased, bigoted approach at having a conversation or a debate or even an argument about the situation to come to a consensus, because, quite frankly, I don't care what people's opinions are. I care what the law is. I care that people are held to a standard that is conducive to the well-being of our community and the people in it. And again, that's the purpose of all of this, exposing the malfeasance, the dereliction, the incompetence, the half-assed nature at which these public servants perform their duties and still get paid. Some of these officers get paid a decent amount of money. Is their job difficult? Yeah, it may be, compared to others, but they chose to take that career path. They're the ones choosing to do that job and get paid to do it. They should at least perform that job to the best of their ability. And if this is the best of their ability, then maybe they need to be replaced. Maybe the public safety director, Doug Murray, needs to pull his head out of his ass and either train these people better, make sure that they're adhering to standards, pay attention. After all, that's what a director is supposed to do. Make sure that the department that he's the director of is performing to the best of their ability. And if anybody, whether it's the chief or anyone other than that, lieutenants, sergeants, whatever, of course there's a chain of command, but if any of them are not performing properly or adequately, they need to be counseled and reprimanded and trained to learn how to perform their duties properly according to the law, and then the community would be in a much better situation. We would have a lot less people having their lives destroyed by these incompetent, worthless public servants that clearly are out for their best interest and not the best interest of the community. And it's all been proven. I can say it 100 times over again, but I can only lead a horse to water. I can't force the horse to drink. So if the horse dies from thirst, I did my part. I don't feel bad. So I'm doing my part by trying to expose this malfeasance, dereliction, crimes, the corruption, to make you all aware of it, so we can all become aware of what's going on. Because once we're aware of the problem, once we're aware of what needs to be fixed, we can then look at ways to fix it. But how can we even begin to learn how to fix a situation if we don't even know what the actual problem is? We don't know where the problems stem from. We don't know what the root cause problems are that these issues come from or stem from. And so it's, unfortunately, the system is stacked up against us pesky citizens. And even though you might think that something like this will never happen to you, or whatever your perspectives are, you might just think I'm some kind of criminal or something like that. Who knows? I mean, quite frankly, like I said, I don't really care what your opinions are, but if you all pay attention, what I've experienced can just as easily happen to you. It can come to your doorstep just as fast as it came to mine, by simply asking public servants to do their job. That's all I've ever done. They didn't want to do that. So, with all that being said, if anyone has any questions, any concerns, if anybody has anything constructive to say, please, by all means, put it in the comments. If you're just an idiot, if you just want to come here to antagonize and that sort of thing, well, that'll be very clear, and you'll probably get deleted or reported. But I'm all about constructive dialogue and getting to the bottom of a matter and getting it fixed. I'm all about results, and I don't want to see anybody else in this community treated the way that I was. I don't want to see anybody else's life turned upside down and destroyed, and all the things that they love taken from them and stripped from them. And for really, the only reason was that these public servants didn't want to do their job. That's the only reason they did this to me. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. They haven't defeated me. Maybe a little bit bruised and scratched up and that sort of thing, but I'm still standing. I still got my feet under me. Still got a smile on my face. I still got my face at the sun. So I hope you all have a good day. I hope you all take care of yourself. I hope you all really pay attention. I hope you all really take to heart what I'm talking about, because this isn't just isolated here in our community in Zanesville, Ohio, or Muskingum County. This is a symptom of something that's going on across our country and communities across our country. And if we want to make a difference in our country or anywhere in any other communities or in the country as a whole, we need to start here where we are at, where we find ourselves. And we can't begin to fix those bigger problems until we fix the problems right here in our face, in our own community. So for all you jury members, for all you voters, do a better job at paying attention. Do your due diligence. It would behoove you to do some research, learn about these things. Maybe learn how to spell words like definition, because apparently the jury members that I had couldn't even spell the word definition. They didn't even know the definition of the word. What's the word? Obstruct. They didn't know what the meaning of the word obstruct was. So, these are simple things. These are things that we learned in grade school. Spelling, words like obstruct. Of course, yeah, maybe junior high. But let's be reasonable here. These are adults that aren't intelligent enough to spell, that are jury members that clearly don't listen to both sides of the situation of the case that they are a jury of. They side with the court because they're there for the court and they feel an obligation. And I'm sure most of these people probably think that just because someone's sitting there as a defendant or sitting on the quote-unquote bad side of the court, that, well, of course, if they're there, they've got to be there for some reason. So they feel obligated to find people guilty on something. That's bias towards the court. So with all this being said, again, this isn't just theory. This isn't just only my opinion. This is my perspective and my opinion based on experience, based on what I have actually gone through and have firsthand knowledge of. So, if any of you have information to support what I'm saying, if any of you happen to know or have heard about any other instances or situations with, say, like Pizza Hut and this Amanda or Jordan Blanton, or for that matter, other officers or public servants here in Zanesville, Ohio, Muskingum County, feel free to leave some information or leave a comment and tell us a little bit about it. Let the people know. Let's start exposing what's really actually going on here. And I don't want people just ranting for no reason at all. Make sure if you're gonna leave a comment, if you're gonna talk about these things, make sure you have evidence of it. Make sure that that you have something to validate what you're saying, so you're not just complaining about nonsense or things that can't actually be validated, because that's not going to amount to anything. We need information that can be validated and verified and backed up to be productive here. So this is my call for the community, for all of you who may have been disturbed at one time or another by noise at night or early morning hours, that may have had bad interactions with public servants here in Zanesville, Ohio, and Muskingum County, with the sheriff's department, with the police department, with any of the departments locally, and the individuals that you had the bad experience or negative experience with. By all means, let us know about it. I would encourage you as well to start your own YouTube channel and do like I've been doing, and take recordings of conversations and video recordings of interactions and situations that you find yourself in that are negative and detrimental to you, and not in accordance with the law. Start recording these things. Start providing evidence that can expose what is really going on, so that way we can start to fix these issues, these problems in the community, and actually make things better, make our community, make our environment a better and more conducive place to be. That's conducive to our well-being, conducive to our health, to good health, not the contrary. So, again, if anybody has any questions, concerns, feel free to leave it in the comments. If you're going to be a jerk-off, please go jump off a bridge or something. I don't have the patience for all that, so you'll probably still make comments anyways, but I'll just have to report you, so no big deal. I'll just get you deleted. So stay tuned tomorrow. Not sure exactly what time, probably sometime in the mid-morning I'll post these recordings, and you all can hear for yourself, so stay tuned.